Sure. I don't know how you'll know when to change it, but
If you give like a hand
okay. So good morning, everyone. First, I want to thank the TEDxTAMUQ folks for organizing. The thing that I want to leave you with today as I go through my talk is that leadership has been, I think, overcomplicated. It is a simple arithmetic for being a leader. You need to be transparent, you need to be selfless, and you need to be vulnerable. And what that amounts to is you need to show your humanity in everything that you do. In 2005, as a junior officer, a brand new diplomat, I was posted to Najaf, Iraq. I was sent there essentially to enlist allies in the reconstruction of Iraq, to advance American priorities, and to do right by Iraqis. When I arrived, I was given a personal security detail. I was given a local employee, 2 pistols, and a phone, cell phone full of contacts. I had been a Marine 18 months later, had served in Iraq, but the head of my personal security detail came to me and he confiscated the pistols. And I said, I'm a Marine, I can handle this. And he said, sir, you're going to hurt yourself. We will take it from here. At that point, I realized that my only job was to lead. And I thought that I was a good leader because I had been a Marine, but I had a lot to learn. There was a young cleric, his name was Sheikh Raid. He ran a charity for the widows of police and soldiers. And as you might imagine, in 2005, there were a lot of widows. He was trying to do right by these families. I convinced him that working with me was the right thing to do, that working with the United States was the right thing to do. And so I had a little bit of money that I was able to provide for him. I showed up at his events. We were seen together. I thought that I was doing a great job of leading. And then one morning, Sheikh Raid was coming to see me at our little base. And just outside the gate of our base, he was ambushed and he was killed. It was clear to me that he was killed because of his association with me. And the thing that I regret the most, having made his wife a widow and his kids orphans, was that I was, in that case, a bad leader. Every day in Najaf, I faced fear. I was scared. Whether it was roadside bombs or indirect fire from rockets and mortars, I had my own anxiety about the work I was doing, and I never shared it with Sheikh Raid. Had I been transparent and selfless and vulnerable and shared these things with him, he might have changed his calculations about working with me, and he might be alive today. I was a U.S. Marine, and I learned about the obsession Marines have with leadership. We talk about it all of the time. Wherever there are 2 Marines, even if they're the same rank, one of them is the leader. We are obsessed with the idea that leadership creates heroes. But what it also does is it creates saints and gods and unattainable examples of what a leader is. When I was in the Marine Corps, I had a boss who never let us see him sit down. It was ridiculous. I don't know what he was trying to teach us, but what he taught us was, in order to be a good leader, you need to do the sort of things that the people following you cannot do. And so, following my time in Najaf, I had the opportunity to work with really remarkable leaders, to learn from their example. I was Hillary Clinton's special assistant. I worked at the White House as the director for Iraq of the National Security Council, worked with then Vice President Biden on Iraq. I worked with Marine Corps General John Allen on Counter-ISIL. And I learned so much about the selflessness it takes to be a good leader. And so In 2017, I was named Consul General for Basra and southern Iraq. And when I got there, we started doing such good for southern Iraq. We were working with politicians and working with students and working with charitable organizations and activists and women and churches. It was, by all accounts, some of the best diplomatic work that had been done in Iraq. And then in 2018, in the fall, we were attacked. And Secretary of State Pompeo decided that we were going to have to close our mission. And this is me telling the 1,000 personnel in that consulate that we were going to have to end our mission. Some of these folks had been working at that consulate for over a decade. They were going to lose their jobs. They were going to be unable to send money back to their families. And I stood there and I answered all of their questions and I absorbed all of their grief. And it was emotional. And we cried. The lessons that I had learned about leadership, I employed that night and throughout the next 3 weeks. One lesson that I learned that I found was most important is that large organizations and systems reward leaders no matter. A good leader, a great leader who is being selfless and thinking about the people she or he is in charge of knows that just by taking care of people, just by leading and being a good example, the system will take care of you. And so I didn't spend 1 second of the 3 weeks it took to close this consulate thinking about what was going to happen to me, making decisions to design my future. It was only about taking care of them. After I left Basra, after we closed the consulate, I started hearing disturbing news about some of the activists that had worked with us. And it felt familiar. I remembered Sheikh Raid. Can we get that to play?
Lodger told me she'd been threatened by the militias before, after she attended a Women's Day event at the US consulate with her best friend, Rihan Yaqub. A TV channel owned by an Iranian-backed militia accused them of collaborating with the US Consul General. فكانت تحث على القتل بالسوشيال ميديا انه احنا كعميلات وكسفيرات للتابعين للجهات معنيين.
Five or six, I don't know the exact number, of the young people, the activists who had worked with me in Basra were killed. And each time one of them was killed, on Iranian television, they said it was because of me. A great tragedy that I still carry with me. The difference between Sheikh Raid and the young people of Basra is that in every encounter, in every conversation that I had with these folks, I was transparent and honest and showed my humanity and shared my fear for them and for us. And so while I carry a burden because of what happened to them, I also know that they would have done this work no matter. I know that I did not get them into a situation that represented any greater danger for them than they were willing to accept themselves. And so I learned the lessons. As I said, the way organizations work is that there will be some reward. The system will reward. I won the State Department's award for leadership in an expeditionary environment. I had the opportunity to work with Secretary of State Pompeo and Secretary of State Blinken as their executive assistant, one of the great jobs in the Foreign Service. I didn't have to do anything except take care of people, show them who I was, support them in their aims and ambitions, and not think about myself. It may seem, because of the kinds of examples that I have used, that it takes an extreme environment to become a great leader. It doesn't. Transparency, vulnerability, selflessness work just as well in Iraq during the height of the war as they do at the local bake sale, as they do in a group project for university students. That's the most important thing. These are universal truths about leadership. Making yourself an unattainable goal or ideal is the opposite of good leadership. In 1980, Senator Ted Kennedy gave what is considered one of the great political speeches in American history. He was conceding in this speech that he would not be the Democratic nominee for president and that President Jimmy Carter would be. It is held up as one of the defining examples of how a leader shares who they are in moments of difficulty.
In the words of Tennyson that my brothers quoted and loved, and that have special meaning for me now, I am a part of all that I have met. Too much is taken, much abides. That which we are, we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. For me, a few hours ago, this campaign came to an end. For all those whose cares have been our concern, the work goes on, the cause endures, the hope still lives, and the dream shall never die.
It is a beautiful speech. Here's what struck me, though. That poem that he quotes is Ulysses by Alfred Lord Tennyson. It's one of my favorites as well. And so I came upon this because I love to recite that poem, and I was looking for others who had used it. And so if you'll indulge me, I'm going to recite that portion of the poem. Though much is taken, much abides. And though we are not now, that strength which in old days moved heaven and earth, that which we are, we are. One full temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. I wonder if you noticed a difference between my recitation and his. The senator, in this moment that is remembered as this great bit of transparency and selflessness, especially for a politician, omitted the words, made weak by time and fate. The most human opportunity in that passage is to admit that you might have been made weak by time and fate. To admit the humanity of it. We'll never know why he left that out. Maybe he left it out to preserve a political opportunity in the future. Maybe he left it out because at last his ego could not allow him to admit that bit of defeat. But every day as leaders, we have to make a choice and a decision. Every day as leaders, we have to decide whether we service our egos, our ambition, our personal priorities, or whether we serve the greater good and primarily the people in our charge. And for most of us, most days, it is not life or death. It is not combat. But for the people who will follow you, the people who will grow and learn and become who they're going to become because they saw you, it is vital that you demonstrate who you are, that you be selfless, that you be ready to sacrifice, that you be transparent and vulnerable. And it's simple. You're not trying to become a saint or a god. You just want to be the best version of yourself and the best leader you can be. Thank you.